7 years ago, my life split into two parts. Before my daughter died, and after. Emily was 32 years old, full of warmth and stubborn optimism, the kind of woman who called me every Sunday without fail. The day she collapsed from a sudden aneurysm, I was folding laundry in my quiet home in Chicago when the phone rang. By the time I reached the hospital, machines were breathing for her, and doctors were speaking in careful, distant tones. Within hours, she was gone. There is no language strong enough to describe what it feels like to outlive your child. It feels unnatural, like the universe has made a terrible mistake and refuses to correct it. At her funeral, I stood beside her husband, Daniel, and their 6-year-old son, Noah. Daniel clung to me and wept, saying he didn't know how he would raise Noah alone. I looked at my grandson's small, confused face and made a silent promise that no matter what it cost me, he would not suffer more than he already had. Daniel spoke of mounting medical bills, of a mortgage he couldn't manage on one income, of sleepless nights and fear about the future. I had savings from the business my late husband and I had built together over decades. Money had never meant much to me beyond security for my family. So when Daniel said he was drowning, I wrote a check for $400,000 that first year without hesitation. I told myself it was for Noah's school, his stability, his therapy, his future. When Daniel hugged me and called me an angel, I believed I was doing the right thing. I believed that by supporting the man my daughter loved, I was still protecting a piece of her. That first wire transfer felt like an act of love, a way to keep Emily's world from collapsing entirely. I had no idea that it would become the beginning of 7 years of quiet deception. The second year, Daniel called again. His voice sounded tired, defeated. He spoke about unexpected expenses, investment opportunities that needed more capital, and how hard it was to balance work and parenting alone. Grief has a way of clouding judgment. It makes you desperate to hold on to whatever connection remains. For me, Daniel and Noah were the last living ties to Emily. So when he asked for help again, I sent another $400,000. I did not ask for documentation. I did not ask for proof of investments or school tuition. I simply trusted. Each year followed the same pattern. An emotional conversation, assurances that the money was securing Noah's future, and my quiet transfer of funds. By the fourth year, it had become almost routine. Daniel would tell me about promising business ventures or market downturns that required patience and more capital. He assured me Noah would attend private school soon, that a substantial college fund was growing steadily, that the mortgage was secure. I rarely visited for extended periods, believing I didn't want to interfere. When I did visit, everything seemed comfortable enough, nice furniture, good clothes, vacations mentioned casually in conversation. I assumed the investments were flourishing. I convinced myself that prosperity was proof my money was working. By the 7th year, I had sent nearly $2.8 million. Friends occasionally asked how Daniel was managing financially, and I proudly said I was helping ensure Noah's future. I wore my generosity like a badge of honor, never imagining that I might be financing something entirely different. Looking back, I see now how grief can disguise warning signs. I ignored small inconsistencies because acknowledging them would have meant admitting I might have been wrong about someone my daughter loved. Trust felt easier than doubt. Love felt easier than confrontation. And so I continued giving year after year, believing I was building a safety net for my grandson when, in reality, I was. Everything unraveled one quiet summer evening when Noah was 13. He was taller, quieter, carrying a seriousness children shouldn't have to carry so young. We were sitting on my porch watching the sun dip below the trees when he asked, almost casually, "Grandma, why do you send Dad so much money?" The question startled me. I asked what he meant, and he explained that his father mentioned my financial help often, but their life didn't reflect it. They had moved out of their previous home because it was too expensive. He attended public school. There was no talk of a college fund, no special tutoring, no signs of large investments shaping his future. Yet Daniel had purchased a new luxury vehicle and traveled frequently for what he called business. My heart began to pound as Noah described these details with innocent confusion. That night, after he went to sleep, I sat alone replaying every conversation I had ever had with Daniel. The next morning, I hired a private investigator. What followed felt like watching my world fracture all over again. Financial records revealed extravagant vacations, gambling expenditures in Las Vegas, and even the purchase of a condo in Miami registered under a limited liability company. There were no substantial long-term investments for Noah, no carefully built college fund. The majority of the money had been consumed by lifestyle choices that had nothing to do with my grandson's well-being. When I confronted Daniel with the evidence, he initially deflected, then grew defensive, and finally admitted he had used the funds as he saw fit. He said losing Emily had shattered him and he deserved to live. Hearing those words felt like losing my daughter a second time. The betrayal was not just financial, it was moral. It was the realization that my grief had been exploited, that my love had been manipulated into funding indulgence instead of security for a child who had already lost his mother. Taking legal action was one of the hardest decisions of my life. Part of me feared that pursuing accountability would further fracture Noah's world. But remaining silent would have meant accepting that his future could continue to be compromised. I filed a lawsuit and worked with financial advisors to create a protected trust in Noah's name, structured so that funds could only be used for his education, healthcare, and long-term development. Every transfer from that point forward went directly into that trust, inaccessible to anyone else. Daniel reacted angrily, accusing me of betrayal and control. He attempted to frame the situation as my attempt to undermine him as a father. But the financial evidence spoke clearly. Over time, the legal process revealed patterns of spending that left little room for justification. During this period, Noah became increasingly aware of the tension between us. I made it a priority to shield him from adult conflict while reassuring him that none of this was his fault. Eventually, he chose to spend more time living with me, seeking stability and transparency. The court established arrangements that ensured his educational and emotional needs were prioritized. The transition was not simple. Uprooting a teenager from one household to another carries emotional weight. Yet Noah adapted with resilience that amazed me. We developed routines, shared dinners, study sessions at the kitchen table, quiet conversations about his dreams. Slowly, our home became a place of healing rather than suspicion. I began to see that accountability was not cruelty. It was protection. Setting boundaries did not mean abandoning love. It meant redefining it in a healthier, wiser way. Today, Noah is 17 and preparing for college applications. He talks about studying engineering, inspired by stories of his grandfather's work ethic and creativity. When I watch him plan his future, I feel both pride and lingering sorrow. I still miss Emily every day. Grief does not disappear, it simply changes shape. But I have learned lessons carved deeply into my heart. I learned that generosity must be paired with discernment. I learned that love does not require blindness. And I learned that even in profound loss, courage can come from unexpected places. Sometimes from a 13-year-old boy brave enough to ask a simple question. The nearly $2.8 million I gave away will never fully return, though portions may be recovered through legal channels. Yet the greater recovery has been restoring security to Noah's life and regaining clarity within my own conscience. I no longer equate sacrifice with silence. I understand that protecting a child's future sometimes requires difficult conversations and firm action. When Noah hugged me recently and thanked me for standing up for him, I felt a quiet sense of redemption. I could not save my daughter from fate, but I could safeguard the future she would have wanted for her son. In the end, grief tried to make me vulnerable, but truth made me stronger. And while money can be lost, wisdom, once painfully earned, becomes a legacy in itself.